talk is Next talk is supporting Python 3 in large-scale project by Kir Chou. Please welcome Ms. Chou. Thank you. Talk will start after a test of mic. Please everybody listen carefully.
Okay, my name is Kir Chou. The title of my presentation is Supporting Python 3 in Large-Scale Project. My presentation will be in English. I consent to bring recording during my presentation. I consent to having my picture taken during my presentation. I will comply with the PyCon JP Code of Conduct. Okay. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Kir Chou. I'm from Taiwan. Many speakers in PyCon Japan things from Taiwan too. I always call myself the monkey, code monkey in the jungle. And the reason is because, yes, I work for Amazon Japan. So where Amazon, AKA, is a jungle in Brazil. And actually, my company is not exact Amazon in US. It's a company called A9, used to call A9 in California. Here's my GitHub and Stack Overflow account. Today's outline will be the background of this work and how to support Python 3, and plus the execution plan to do that. And finally, so many lessons we learned and the things can help you. So first of all, I think, how many of you guys still use Python 2 nowadays? Can you raise your hand? Oh, yeah, I also raise my hand. Yeah, I use Python 2 now. I still forced to use that, mainly because so many dependencies still use that. But I don't do any new package in Python 2 anymore since 3 years ago. Because basically, any Python 2 only code nowadays is technical debt. So that's simply a background of the talk. But basically, the talk here, I'm basically talking more about the execution plan. So if you are interested in other stuff, here is tons of background work. First thing is from our Python father, Guido. He gave a talk in PyCascades 2018. It's about the Python 3 retrospective. And this talk, he explained a little bit of the retrospective of some failure he made for the moving to Python 3. And the other guy from C Python core develop team called Victor, who gave the Python 3 10 years later talk in PyCon 2018. This is also a very good talk. He tried to explain how hard Python community pushed people to use Python 3, and from 10% Python 3 package to nowadays 90% of them. And if you are interested in the detail of supporting Python 3, there are two talks. I believe it should be sufficient enough if you read two of them. The first one is since Python 3 introduced, the guy called Nat, he explained the difference between str and bytes, not string, sorry, str, str, and bytes difference between Python 2 and Python 3. And this talk basically explained all the detail about that, which is the most difficult part and most fundamental difference between Python 2 and 3. And the other guy called Brett, he is basically the author of Supporting Python 3, this book, which is exactly the same title I put, Supporting Python 3 work. He's the author of that. He explained all the detail of how to do that. So that's it. If you want to know that, I will not show any code detail in my talk. So if you want to know that, please follow these two links to know more. Finally, if you want to learn not only from me, also from others, people's experience, the most recommended one is from Jason. He's an engineer in Facebook. He gave a talk in PyCon 2018. It's about how Facebook migrated from Python 2 to fully Python 3 in 5 years. 5 years. And the other talk, not talk actually, he actually also gave a talk in PyCon, but this is an article by Dropbox. Dropbox is a company Guido Python father currently working for, so it's kind of worth to read like how Dropbox migrated their front-end app to Python 3. So move on. How to support Python 3? So theoretically, in the ideal world, I think that's what I thought. So I just share with the very early sort, like one year ago, I thought in such way. We just thought like, okay, in our package pool, we have Python 2 package. We have Python 2 occasionally also can run in Python 3's package. And we also have purely Python 3's package. And how do we do that is basically, first step, make all code in Python 3. And then we assure the result is same. And finally, we basically, okay, let's just stop execute code in Python 2, done. That's what I thought. And that's also a lot of previous supporting Python 3, like Brett in the book or in the presentation talk about supporting Python 3 is so easy. Actually, yeah, that's what I thought, but that's not the truth. The fact is, like, it's like an iceberg. What it actually looks like is totally way more than I thought. And the supporting Python 3 that book's content is basically just cover maybe 10% or less than 10% of the entire works. So the real how to support Python 3. Let's define the large scale first. In large scale project in my company, in my team, or not my entire company, but in my organization, it's like a 3-digit number of packages. And tons of packages that are 10 years ago, which are written before Python 3 introduced. And also, there are tons of complicated relationship between packages. So like A depend on B, and C also depend on B, and B depend on something else. And the dependency is very complicated. And also, the source lines of code is more than millions level. And the number of production environment is a 2-digit number. So which means we deploy those hundreds of packages into multiple different departments, excluding those replica. So it's like identical environment, we have 2-digit number. And plus, we have more than 2 build systems and more than 2 deployment systems. This is a definition of my topic's large-scale project. So in how to support Python 3 in large-scale project looks like this. We appear 3 questions. We face 3 questions, basically. The first one is how to find your Python code. And the second one is what interpreter do your system support? And finally is what's the purpose of your result? Let's take a look at each one in detail. How to find your Python code? Basically, inside your company, the Python code will appear in 3 types of places. The first one is purely just Python package, which is easy to find. But the other one is like a non-Python package, such as some Java package, but they just write some Python script for some just convenient purpose. And some of them even come from other languages people, and they don't really know what the difference between Python 2 and 3. They just want to achieve some really easy purpose thing. And even worse, some Python code is inline command. They basically put the Python code inside other language or in a shell script. You cannot even find it. And the other thing is your Python package might contain tons of company dependency. Maybe other team develop that, or maybe the third party, the open source people develop that. So this is the first challenge you will meet is in large scale project, you cannot really control the scale because there are too many packages. The second problem, what interpreter do your system support? And there are actually 2 issues behind. The first one is what's Python your system support? And the other one is how your Python application really use those interpreter. And for the first question, it can be tons of things behind, such as people just don't care. They just put the Python code there, run by the system default Python. They don't really know what's that, and that could be the thing. The other one is like they use virtual env. Is basically they use virtual env to put the right Python interpreter behind. And the other thing is they have a Docker image, and they put the right specific compiled Python version in there, and they force like all the Python package to run in that Python version. And there are tons of different things, but I don't want to do the assumption on any specific case. So here's just a list of possibilities. And also the other thing is how the Python script or application be executed. It can be decided by interpreter directly, because you might just run your Python script by Python, by just run a Python 3.4 and some your application there. Or you might actually run Python as a script. So you put a shebang on top of the Python file, and you run the Python decided by the shebang. And it may be also like some build system actually wrap your script, and at that time they decide which Python to run. I don't have a clear example here, but what I know is like a PyEXE, they do such a trick. And the third question is, what's the intention of the result? The intention of the result can be many different things, such as unit test. And unit test, it depends on what the test runner, and depends on what Python interpreter is executed by the test runner. And the side packages is like your build system build your Python package into the side packages, and depends on the build system. And also deployment system will deploy your Python result application script to the environment. And it depends on the deployment system, or sometimes it depends on the build system. And application for the same is how you deploy that. So it's which Python interpreter you executed. And finally, it's the integration test. Maybe your integration test is actually running on some other server, so it depends on the server's deployment system. Okay. Until here, basically, we know there are three major problems of supporting Python 3's difficulty. And the exact supporting Python 3 book talk about how to make your code Python 2.3 compatible is actually very limited inside the whole problem I clear. Here is the execution plan I did in my company. So the first thing, basically, you need to prepare a POC, because you need to prove, especially in a large company, there are tons of political things, and you need to persuade other people, this is important, you shouldn't use Python 2 anymore, and if you still don't do the migration work, what's the potential risk later? And before that, you need to basically pick up some package, and start from there. Start to prove you understand the build system, deployment system, and start to know how to really run this migrated package in Python 3. And later, once you have POC, you basically build a team. And finally, not finally, but 3 steps, three steps in many iterations, basically write a guideline and investigate that and estimate the task size. And finally is the migrate them, because you know which task you should work on. You can start to do the migration. So prepare the POC. I put the example on my GitHub. So the slide will release later, so you can check that later. Basically, as I say, find the easiest one. My example here is actually an example derived from my company's thing, but it's totally brand new one, re-innovated by me. It's a crypto library, try to encrypt and decrypt things. And why I choose that, probably some of you have background, you know, like decrypt, encrypt is always talk about bytes or stir issue. So I choose that. And I did that, I proved the concept, and I started to broadcast my idea. And later I did really start to make more people know that. And the second thing might have if you are the manager inside the company, you might curious, like, do I really need a team for supporting Python 3? It looks very small, looks not very easy and no impact. My answer is, this is what we did before. We use a volunteer-based model. So basically, you just say, who consider this is important, who start to do that, and people just don't care. So tons of people, they focus on their stuff. They are not interested in Python at all, or they write Python just for solving problem, not for the Python itself. They basically just don't care. So it ended up 3 years ago, only few packages partially migrated before in my company. So the real way to do that, in my opinion, is you need a think tank, because you need to gather in the knowledge. And the more benefit by the think tank is those volunteers inside your company, they know like which team to consult to ask questions, and then also the team can actively just share the knowledge to others. And besides, the think tank can also be a representative to the company, such as you meet some open source library and the newest open source version have some license issue. And maybe that could be a place to go. And later, write a guideline. Write a guideline is very important. I will explain later about why is it, because of the stir issues really a kind of, we debate a lot in the company before. And also how to verify the results, what type of tool, what type of process your team to follow, especially you have 3 digits number of packages. You cannot really reach that by, well, just a volunteer-based. And also, I'm not going to talk those gray phone color things. Also, like what's the supporting Python 3 strategy? That will be totally the thing you need to write a guideline, especially for people who are not interested in Python. And then, the thing is, how do you find those tasks? That's my question 1. There is unfortunate news later, I will say, but here I want to say is we use a solution called entry point based. So entry point based means we have a script here. We know it's a Python script. It's an entry point. We run that. And later we need to know that Python script from the roots. We start to find those dependencies. And we need to basically migrate from here, from the root, from the one who has 0 dependency on others. Start from there to migrate things. And people might ask, like, is there any automation tool for that? I know the tool code cannot use Python 3. However, in a large-scale project, you cannot use that because there are tons of internal packages. And so what we did is we basically developed an internal script to verify that. And here's a tons of things you need to consider when you meet your Python 3. When you check your Python package, firstly, is the Python 3 support yet? Or who is the owner of your package? And is that package the open source one? Or if it's the open source one, does that package support Python 3 in other version? And in other version, does the license is valid for use by the company? There are tons of things to consider. And for the question 2 and 3, basically, you need to investigate the build system. How do you run all those things? How do you build those things in the Python 2.3 compatible version? And assure the unit test also passed in both Python versions. And deployment system, for sure, you need to also make sure your environment contain both versions, because some entry point running in Python 2, some entry point running in Python 3. And how to estimate text size is another question. I will say it's very difficult. We have applied some metrics for that. It sounds very dumb, but unfortunately, we couldn't find any better solution for that. First thing is the code coverage, what test coverage you have, and the code quality. Like if some code is written 10 years ago and looks bad shape, then we will consider the effort will be higher. And the source line, I know like using lines of code looks very dumb, but that's the way we use, because unfortunately, to support Python 3, you need to read the code. You cannot just imagine there is some magic tool for helping you to do that. And we also investigate like some internal dependency, maybe owned by other team. Do we need to help them, or will they help us? And some edge case, like often open source package. We did admit that we have some package used some 10 years ago as open source package, and they no longer support Python 3. And we try to find the maintainer to see if we can submit a change, but there's no maintainer there anymore. And some build system effort, deployment system efforts, I say. Then we have prepared tons of things. We know what to work on. The next thing is how to do the migration. We apply the model migrate progressively. So we know the package we try to migrate, and we know what entry point we target to. What's the next thing to do is basically migrate them progressively. You cannot just from root, finish the root, from leaf, finish the leaf, and from entry point, finish the entry point. That won't work. The way we do is we put a transition period here. It's basically we migrate a root package until the unit test is fully covered, and we start to migrate a leaf package also until a certain point. And the application, part of the application, we start to do that. And we assure like not only unit test passed, it's actually runnable in Python 3. And eventually, you can drop the Python 2 support when there is no dependency, no entry point, no top, not root dependency, use Python 2 anymore. And we use a progress checker for that. This is very brief example. It's just we know some entry point, and we migrate some library. And for the application dependency, basically, you can see like it's way slower than those root dependency. And some dependency we might assume like it's actually partially in production. And to really treat those things and make multiple people coming in this think tank and solve one or two packages and then came back to their team to work on their project. Okay, finish the execution plan. What lesson we learned? First is always be ready to face unexpected things. So for example, my company, we expect, as I say, my original expectation is very easy. There shouldn't have much difficulty. It's like iceberg's top part. But it's not. It's because we have two build systems. And in detail, it's like one build system only support up to Python 3.4. And Python 3.4 is actually end of life this March. So which means like we cannot use the old build system. We need to also migrate the build system. And that's the issue. And there are tons of this type of issue. I'm not going to explain the detail there, the gray line here. The next thing is, as I say, we meet the orphan package in open source version. So some representative example is we use the C open source library written in C. They use the Python objects. And so we basically, like for me, before PyCon Japan this year's sprint, I actually don't know how to do that. So that work was done by some of my team members before. And he's kind of C's master, so he understood how to do that. But basically, those type of things is always out of your expectation because you consider all the packages written in Python before, but might not. Might actually some packages actually written in C or maybe CFFI or whatever stuff. Maybe they need Python migration. And the other thing is the string issue, which is the most difficult part of supporting Python 3. There is a community approach provided by Braid. He also mentioned that in his book. If you follow that community approach, you can have a fully Python 2.3 compatible code. But it's very ugly, and it's not easy and not trivial. And I did have an example in my GitHub account. However, in most of cases inside your company, you might not need that because Python 2 and 3, in most of cases, their ASCII code support equally. There are edge cases I know, but as my experience showed, nearly 100% works unless you really try to do some comparison between stir and bytes. And I actually have a talk in PyCon Taiwan just a few days later. The topic is about the stir bytes nightmare before Python 2 EOL. For sure, it's too late to advocate these, so well, that's just a kind of thing. You can watch the recording later if you are curious about that. And the other thing is things can help you. So things can help you. I put the first sentence is the library called 6 or future. You can use either of them, but pick up one of them only. You don't need two of them because they basically did the same thing for you. Some people say future is actually newer, and some people say that's better, but well, they try to solve the same problem. So that's the first thing. When you try to do a supporting Python 3, that's basically the necessary package you should use. And some people will say, does there automation tool for that? 2-3 is one of them. But 2-3 provide very limited help. So don't expect 2-3 can really help you to, I don't need to understand the code. I just run the script. I get the result. It won't work. And the future, You might see the from future import something before. Brett actually explained that in his talk. It's just a safeguard after supporting Python 3. So before your code can run in both Python 2 and 3, future release library is basically not really help. And after you support Python 3, you also don't need future release library. So it's not really something needed. But for sure, you can use that to assure like this package is migrated. And the other additional thing I will say is helpful. The first is called linter. Linter, you can choose PyLint or flag A. Or maybe there are other things, I don't know. If you say, the reason why I suggest the linter is because it's more comfortable for everyone to have a unified code. And because you need to touch all the package through migration, why not just make them unified? And there are actually tools help you called AutoLinter. I know there are 3, maybe more. I never try use any of them, but my colleague did use part of them to do that. Static type check is another thing you can consider, and I highly recommend. Not only me, the Dropbox experience also showed this is very helpful. And the reason why is because, again, you need to review the stir and bias issue. And the stir bias is a thing, if you just look at the code, you don't really understand this is bias or stir in Python 2. And there are a thing called Pyre, but it's developed by Facebook, and they introduced last year, but it's only support Python 3. So if you need to use a static type for Python 2.3 compatible version, then MyPy is the only solution. The summary. So summary is simple. If you need to support Python 3 and you have not yet, oh, it's a typo, you have not yet support Python 3, remember, like if your project size is very big, it's a long journey. Facebook did that for 5 years. We already working on that for a year, and we are still working on that. And there are some side benefits. First is everyone get better understanding of the extreme old packages. Nobody touched them, but now everyone understands them because you did a migration plus code review. And the other thing is all the code quality getting higher because, as I say, flag A or those linter did help the code, and even more you put the type in there. And ready for any of next migration. That's surely the thing. If you do not need it, well, congratulations. And also, at least from this talk, you know one thing is running Python in production is not that simple probably than you think. Thank you.
We have about 3 minutes left. Does anyone have a question? You have a question?
No? Oh.
Thank you. I wanted to. I've seen some statistics about like 2 and 3 versions. That there is one reason people say why the migration is so slow is most Python products and like libraries they not covered with unit tests. Apparently, there's some like practice like maybe low level of entry to Python or something like that, so people don't write unit tests. What about your organization? Like, how much of libraries, how many libraries was percentage covered?
My answer would be we are also kind of lucky. Most of our package has the acceptable unit test coverage, although it's not that high. But not only for that, we have an integration test after, we have an environment integration test. So we not only assure the test coverage, we even assure the production code is really runnable. Yeah. But yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Is for supporting Python 3, the unit test coverage is really important. If you're really not sure your code can fully run in Python 3, and even sometimes your unit test passed, it still might cause some error. So that's a good point. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for presentation and question. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.